I'm Amy. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Today I want to go through my reading wrap-up for August. I had a few books that I selected in a video. I will share a link below or a video card if you would like to see how I selected them. But these were the books that I had, plus an ebook, which was The First Time I Died was the name of that one. I'm just going to go in the order that I finished them in, starting with The Deception by Joan Wolfe. This is a historical fiction, historical romance, following Kate, who is the daughter of an aristocrat or noblewoman, and the man that she eloped with, a horse trader, horse seller. He would purchase horses, train them, and then resell them. Her mother died when she was young, and at the beginning of the book, her father is brought into the home. There was an accident in the woods where he was shot, and he sadly passes away. After his passing, she goes to live with her uncle, which was part of her father's wishes, and a female cousin is brought in to act as a chaperone. About a year after she goes to live with her uncle, and grieving the loss of her father, kind of dealing with this new lot in her life, her uncle sets up a situation where she's forced into a marriage with our other main character, Adrian. He is the Earl of Greystone, and after this marriage, she's basically just dumped off at one of his estates. She's there for around 6 to 8 months after their marriage. She doesn't see him at all during that period, but her husband's brother does come to visit, and she ends up befriending him. His man of accounts comes to visit, and she also befriends him, as well as the rest of the staff that's around the estate. With her background in horses, she takes one of the horses that's on the estate and basically just reconditions it, exercising it every day. But she also ropes in her husband's brother into helping her investigate the death of her father, because she doesn't believe it was an accident. She thinks he was murdered, and they keep it a secret because she and his brother both feel that her husband is very busy with political activities, and he's already stressed out, so they don't want to stress him out more. Her uncle ends up again meddling in her life and forces her husband to make their marriage more public for his image. So they gradually start to get to know each other and fall in love. She keeps this new developing feelings secret from him also, because it was a forced marriage. It wasn't something that he wanted, so she doesn't want to push her feelings on him. This keeping secrets from her husband does cause some problems later on for their relationship, but it's sweet. I like the development of their relationship. I like her relationship with his brother, with his staff, with her father's old partner, who I believe is Irish. There is mystery in the book along with the romance, but it's not the twisty, turny, like major reveals. It's just gradually, as they gather information, they just uncover what the truth is. It doesn't really follow like a thriller type of mystery. But I did enjoy this. I probably will be unhauling it, but only because I don't think that I'll ever return and reread it. There was a little bit of spice, but it's pretty mild, not a whole bunch of it. Not a whole lot of suspense with the mystery, but it's a sweet little story. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. There's more horse content and political content than I was expecting. I really liked the horse content. There's a race that is tied to the plot, and there's a lot of talk of horse training and the quality of horses and such. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would recommend. I gave it a 3-star. It was kind of just middle of the road. It's not a new favorite, but I did enjoy it. And that's The Deception by Joan Wolfe. The next book I finished was not on my TBR. It's The Only One Left by Riley Sager. It was a book club pick for another YouTuber that I watch, Jashi Corinne. I haven't really been involved in a lot of the book club activities, but I did finish the book. I've read from Riley Sager before, I believe Home Before Dark, which I was a bit disappointed in, mainly because of the ending, and I was pleasantly surprised that this one I did enjoy, maybe because I wasn't going in with the same expectations that I went in to Home Before Dark with, but we follow Kit as she becomes the caretaker for an elderly woman named Lenora, who years and years ago was suspected of killing her entire family. So we start off with Kit coming off of a 6-month suspension. She was accused of purposefully leaving out medications for one of her patients that she was an in-home caretaker for, and they overdosed on that medication and passed away. So there is some suspicion that she did this on purpose and it wasn't an accident, but there's no way that they can prove it either way. So she was suspended for 6 months. Coming off of that suspension, she has a new assignment, and she's not super excited about it because there's a rhyme about this woman. Everybody knows that she killed her family, or she was suspected of killing her family, even though it could never be proven. So she feels like this assignment is because, well, nobody's gonna care if I kill her because they think that she killed her whole family and so forth. So she's not excited about having to work for this woman. But Lenora has had strokes over the years, so she's not able to move other than her left hand. She's not able to speak, but she can type. And she starts to type out her story for Kit about the night that her family died. There are noises in the middle of the night that Kit can't seem to figure out the cause of, or at least she can't find it. There's a groundskeeper that believes Nora's grandson. There's a lot of twists and turns. The previous caretaker disappeared in the middle of the night. She just up and left all of her belongings. And it's just filled with twists and turns to unraveling what happened many years ago when Lenora's family was killed, as well as kind of uncovering some of the personal trauma that Kit is going through with the patient of hers that died. I gave it 4 stars, and yeah, I definitely liked this a lot better than Home Before Dark. So that is Last One Left by Riley Sager. The next book I finished also wasn't on my August TBR, wasn't even on my radar, but my hold from Libby came in and I wanted to finish it before it expired. Partially because I started this book last year and it's taken this long for my hold to come back around. So it's The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt, and it's a nonfiction book that's exploring the possibility that social media and the introduction of smartphones and even parents being more overprotective of their kids has attributed to an uptick in mental health issues and anxiety in children. And since it's been a while since I've read it, I don't really want to talk about some of the points just because I don't want to misspeak. But the general gist of it is parents are more concerned about their children's safety as far as walking to the store or even playing outside unsupervised, mainly because we consider that a safety hazard nowadays. But they're not necessarily as protective of them online, though I think that is changing now. even just within the last 5-10 years. My kids are 19 and 15, so some of this doesn't really apply, or it's things my husband and I kind of discovered and decided on our own. So, like, we didn't want our kids to have phones until it was absolutely necessary. When my youngest daughter made a TikTok account, and I didn't even know that TikTok existed yet, I just kind of paid attention to some of the content that she was watching and was kind of iffy on it, so I told her I wanted her to take that app off of her phone. But we can't keep them away from everything, of course. They're going to see some of it, but I agree that we need to be more protective of them online than perhaps we have been in the past. There are horror stories of things that have happened even without thinking that possibly anxiety can be an outcome of them being on these devices and having access to this content, partially by putting themselves out there on the internet, and this striving for likes or from feedback from their peers, and sometimes getting negative feedback. There's online bullying and all of these predators that are online that are definitely concerns. So a lot of this was stuff that I was aware of, so it wasn't a whole lot of new information for me, and there are some points that he makes and some research that he cites that definitely make it an interesting read, and if you have children, then I would probably recommend it. It's one that the school recommended to a lot of the parents in our area. So yeah, if it sounds interesting, I think it's worth a read. It's not my favorite book of the year, but I didn't hate it, and I thought that the information was useful and helpful, and I agreed with a lot of it. Not necessarily all of it, of course, but I think that's just the nature of human opinion. But yeah, that is Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. The next book I finished was on my TBR, The First Time I Died by Joe McGregor. This is a mystery. It was written in 2018, so it's an older book, but it sounded interesting and the premise is really unique. So we're following our main character, Garnet. She is going to school, I believe in Boston, to be a psychologist, but she's struggling. She has been given a deadline by her mentor to actually finish her thesis because she's working on her master's degree, but he tells her, go home for the holidays. Your mom just broke her ankle a little while ago, so she's recovering. Your parents are getting older. You should really just go back home, spend time with your family, and decide if this is the career that you actually want to pursue. So she takes his advice, reluctantly, but she takes his advice. She really doesn't want to go back home because there's too many memories there for her, and she's still processing the grief of losing her boyfriend 10 years in the past. He had disappeared, and 3 days later he was found under the ice. And I believe it was decided that it was an accident, but there's some inconsistencies that lead her definitely to believe that it was a murder. So she's decided to take it upon herself to try and find out what happened to him 10 years ago. Mainly because she feels like she can't move forward, that she's stuck because she just doesn't know what happened to him. She feels guilty because she was supposed to meet him the night that he disappeared. There was a storm, and she feels like if he hadn't been coming to meet her, then he wouldn't have died. So her trip back home doesn't start out that great. She makes a stop on their way home, and then after that, she sees a kid out on the ice, and they're in trouble. So she stops her car, she gets out on the ice, and she goes and rescues this kid. But in the process, she falls through the ice and dies. But because help is on the way already, she is rescued and resuscitated. But after she comes back, and as she's recovering and later on, some odd things start happening to her. She starts hearing a voice, and she starts having memories of things that did not happen to her, but she feels like are things that happened to her boyfriend that died. So there's a paranormal aspect to it. As she starts digging and getting in more information about all of the parts that all of her friends and neighbors and the rest of the town folks had in her boyfriend's activities that last day that he was alive before he went missing, you uncover twists. The suspects keep swapping back and forth, and it's a fun read. I really enjoyed reading it. I think I'm just kind of in the mood for murder mysteries recently. So I would, if it sounds interesting, I would pick it up. It was definitely worth the read. I think I gave it 4 stars. And that was The First Time I Died by Joe McGregor. Oh, and it's a series. So I may be continuing at some point because the next one sounds interesting also. The next book I finished was The Book of Night by Holly Black. A lot of people don't like this one, but I thought it was alright. I didn't really go in with a lot of high expectations for it. We follow Charlie, who, she's a bartender. She used to be a thief. Her boyfriend is shadowless, and her sister is a tarot card reader, basically an online psychic, and there are magicians in the world who can manipulate their shadows. And one night a gentleman comes into the bar and he is overheard talking about selling this book that he's acquired. And later, after Charlie leaves the bar, this happens fairly quickly, but she, or fairly soon in the book, so I don't think it's a spoiler, but she goes by an alley and discovers his dead body. So she decides to, I guess, take the opportunity to try and acquire this book that he was going to sell and try and make money off of it because she's struggling financially, and so she decides that she's going to try and acquire this book to sell it. But things get a little bit messy, to say the least. It was a fun read. I listened to some of it on audiobook because it was available on Libby, but there's a lot of things that end up being interconnected that was unexpected, and it was a fun read. I'd say it's worth reading at least once. So I did give it 3 stars, and I really don't have a whole lot else to say about it. So that is The Book of Night by Holly Black. The last book I finished in August also wasn't on my TBR. It's The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. We follow our main character, Tao, who is a traveling fortune teller. She travels from place to place. She doesn't stay anywhere very long, but it's also a found family because she gradually starts to collect companions. There's a mercenary, a former thief, a baker, and even a stray cat that joins her on her journeys. As they journey, we find that she's kind of trying to avoid any of the magicians that are in the country, but it's just a cozy, low-stakes fantasy. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the relationships that they develop. It's just a cute, sweet little traveling story. Not a whole lot else to say about it. I did choose it because my hold came in on Libby, and I wanted to finish it before that expired. But yeah, I think I gave it 3 stars, and I think it was worth the read. Nothing super special about it, but it was enjoyable. So that is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leon. So I finished 6 books in August, 3 physical books, 2 audiobooks, or just purely audiobooks, and 1 ebook. I also had 3 other books on my TBR that I did not finish. I did start The Courting of Bristol Keats, and I am probably about a third of the way through, maybe close to half. I only read the first story and a little bit of the second for Haunted Tales, and I did not start Democracy in America at all. I do kind of hope that if I finish my TBR for September, that I might finish these 3 also, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's my wrap-up for August. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you enjoyed them, what you thought of them, down in the comments. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.